Oh, Virgo, you felt something when you saw that title. Didn't you? Don't even try to pretend you didn't, because that little jump in your chest, that flicker of something warm and terrifying at the same time, that's exactly why you clicked. And that's exactly why we're here tonight. Welcome. For those of you who are new, so glad you found your way here. And for those of you who come back, you already know how this works. We take what resonates, we leave what doesn't. No pressure, no force, just an open, honest space where we look at what's actually moving through you right now. And tonight, what's moving through you is anticipation, that specific, electric, almost unbearable kind of anticipation that comes from being on the edge of something, not knowing exactly when, not knowing exactly how, but feeling somewhere deep in the body, not just the mind, that something is about to move. 4 cards tonight. And when I pulled these, I want to be honest with you, I had to sit with them for a second because together, these four, the first one, okay, positive mind, positive vibes, positive life. Second one, HM, interesting, really interesting, stay positive. Third one, oh wow, I wasn't expecting this one tonight. Your only limit is your mind. And the last one, of course, this one showed up. Love yourself first. Okay, let's talk about what's really going on here because I don't want to gloss over this. I don't want to just float on the surface of this theme tonight and hand you something pretty but empty. There's a conversation you've been waiting for. And I think, if you're honest, it's been sitting in the back of your mind for longer than you'd like to admit. Maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe so long that you've started doing that thing. That very human, very exhausting thing where you rehearse it, where you've imagined how it goes so many times that there are now multiple versions of it living in your head simultaneously. The good version, the complicated version, the version where everything finally gets said, and the version where somehow it still doesn't. And in the middle of all that imagining, something happens to a person, something quiet and gradual and deeply inconvenient. The waiting starts to become its own kind of weight, not dramatic, not crushing, just present, like a hum in the background of everything. There when you wake up, there when something reminds you of them, there in the 2 seconds before you fall asleep, when the noise of the day finally goes quiet and your mind goes straight to this. And here's what that kind of waiting does to a person over time. And this is important, so stay with me. It starts to create a story, not intentionally, not consciously, but the mind, your mind, doesn't like unresolved things. It doesn't like open loops. And so it fills in the gaps with assumptions, with interpretations, with a narrative about why the conversation hasn't happened yet, about what that means. about what it says about them, about you, about this whole thing. Um, and maybe that narrative has been kind to you. Maybe it's been hopeful, patient, generous, or maybe on the harder days, it's been less kind. Maybe it's quietly started convincing you that the conversation isn't coming, that you misread things, that wanting this makes you somehow too much. And that right there is where tonight's cards come in. Because what's about to follow, these four reflections, they're not here to tell you what's going to happen. They're here to look at what's happening inside you while you wait for something outside of you to move. Card number 1, positive mind, positive vibes, positive life. Now, before you roll your eyes, I know, I know this phrase exists on every motivational poster, in every waiting room you've ever sat in. I know it's been reduced to bumper stickers and phone cases and things people say when they don't know what else to say. But I want you to strip all of that away tonight completely and look at what it's actually pointing at. Because in the context of where you are right now, waiting for this conversation, carrying this anticipation, there is something genuinely important being said here. The mind is not a neutral observer. It is not sitting back and watching your life happen and reporting back to you objectively. It is constructing your experience actively, constantly, every single second of every single day. The lens through which you see this situation, this person, this possibility is being shaped by what your mind has decided to focus on. And here's what I want you to ask yourself. Honestly, what has your mind been focusing on lately? When you think about this conversation, this thing you've been waiting for, where does your mind go first? To the possibility that it goes well? To the image of finally having it? Of finally feeling that release of something long held finally being said out loud? Or does it go almost automatically to the version where something goes wrong, where it's too late, where you've built this up so much in your head that the reality can't possibly match it? Because here's what this card is trying to show you, not as a cliche, but as something genuinely worth sitting with. The story you tell yourself about this situation is already shaping how you're showing up in it. The energy you carry into every interaction with this person, whether it's open or guarded, warm or careful, hopeful or braced for disappointment, that energy is not invisible. It communicates constantly without words. And maybe, just maybe, part of what has been keeping this conversation on the edge of happening without quite tipping over into actually happening is the version of the story your mind has been quietly, persistently telling. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because the mind, when it's been waiting for a long time, gets tired, and tired minds protect themselves by expecting less, by leaning toward the outcome that hurts less if it doesn't work out. And this card is asking very directly, what would it look like to choose a different story, not a delusional one, not one that ignores reality, but one that makes room, actual, generous, deliberate room for things to go well. Card number 2, stay positive. Uh, 2 words, simple on the surface, but tonight in this reading, these 2 words are carrying something specific, something that goes beyond the general instruction to look on the bright side. Because staying positive, genuinely staying positive, not performing it, not faking it, is one of the hardest things a person can do when they've been in a state of uncertainty for a long time, when the answer keeps not arriving, when the conversation keeps almost happening and then not, when you've been patient, so patient, and patience starts to feel less like a virtue and more like something being asked of you that you're not sure you have left to give. That's where staying positive becomes genuinely difficult. Not because you're negative, not because something is wrong with you, but because hope, real hope, not the surface kind, requires a kind of courage that doesn't get talked about enough. The courage to keep the door open when everything in you wants to close it, just to feel like you're the one in control of something. The courage to keep believing in a possibility when you haven't been given enough confirmation to justify it. When the logical thing, the self protective thing, would be to stop. And yet, and here's what I feel so strongly for the people in this reading tonight: something in you hasn't stopped. Something in you is still here, still watching, still paying attention, still, despite everything, leaning slightly forward. And this card is not telling you that was wrong. It's not telling you you've been naive. It's sitting here quietly and telling you that the part of you that stayed, that kept the door open, that kept believing, might have known something that your fear didn't want to let you acknowledge. Stay positive. Not because everything is guaranteed, not because you know how this ends, but because the alternative, closing off, bracing, shrinking the expectation down to nothing, costs you something too. And maybe what it costs you is the very openness that makes this conversation possible in the first place. Card number 3, your only limit is your mind. This one stopped me. When I turned it over, genuinely stopped me because of all the cards that could have come up tonight for this theme, for this energy. This one is the most confrontational. And I mean that in the best possible way, because it's not pointing at the other person. It's not pointing at the situation. It's not pointing at the timing or the circumstances or anything external. It's pointing directly and without apology at you, at what's happening between your ears, at the invisible walls you've constructed, brick by brick, thought by thought, around what you believe is possible for you in this situation. And here's the thing about those walls: they don't feel like walls, they feel like facts. They feel like clear eyed, realistic assessments of the situation. They feel like wisdom, like you've done the math and arrived at a reasonable conclusion. But this card gently, firmly is asking whether the math was ever actually real, or whether you were doing calculations with numbers you made up, assumptions dressed as evidence, fears dressed as fact, old experiences from old situations being applied unfairly, inaccurately to something new. Because the mind does that, especially a mind that has been disappointed before. It pattern matches. It takes something from the past, a hurt, a loss, a moment of rejection, and it quietly, protectively overlays it onto the present. So that even when something new is happening, even when something genuinely different is in front of you, it gets filtered through an old story, an old limitation, a ceiling that was built for a different room entirely. And this card tonight is asking you to look up, to notice the ceiling, to ask yourself honestly whether it belongs here, whether the limits you've placed on what's possible, on what you deserve, on how this could go, on what this person might actually be ready to give you are based on this situation or on every situation that came before it. Because if it's the latter, and I think for many of you watching tonight, it is then the conversation you've been waiting for isn't just waiting on them, it's waiting on you to believe, really believe that you're allowed to receive it. Card number 4, love yourself first. And here we are, the last card. And I want to come at this one differently tonight because I know this phrase. I know you know this phrase, and I don't want to hand it to you the same way it's always handed over. So let me ask you something instead, something specific, and I want you to really go there with me. When this conversation finally happens, and I'm saying when, not if, who is going to show up for it? What version of you is going to be sitting there in that moment when the thing you've been waiting for is finally actually happening? Is it going to be the version of you that knows their worth? The one that doesn't need the conversation to go perfectly to feel okay about themselves on the other side of it? The one that can receive what's being offered fully without immediately looking for the catch because they already feel complete enough not to need it to be everything? Or is it going to be the version that has been waiting so long, hoping so hard, needing this so much, that the weight of all that waiting gets carried right into the room with them and changes everything without a single word being said? Uh, because here's what loving yourself first actually means in real practical terms. Not the abstract version, not the self care version. It means doing the internal work now, before the conversation, before the resolution, before the confirmation that you've been hoping for. It means building yourself up, your sense of value, your sense of okayness on a foundation that doesn't require someone else's words to stand. Because the irony, and it's a painful irony, so stay with me, is that the more you need this conversation to define how you feel about yourself, the heavier it becomes for you, for them, for the space between you. And the lighter you are going into it, the more settled, the more grounded, the more genuinely okay, the more space there is for something real to happen, something that isn't warped by desperation or fear or the accumulated weight of all the waiting, something honest, something clean, something that actually has room to breathe. Loving yourself first, tonight, right now, before anything changes, is not a consolation prize. It's not what you do when things don't work out. It's the preparation, it's the foundation, it's what makes everything else, including this conversation you've been waiting for, actually possible in the fullest, most real sense of the word. 4 cards, 4 things worth sitting with tonight. And I want to close with this because I've been feeling it through this entire reading. There's a tiredness in the energy of many of you watching right now. Not a hopeless tiredness, not the kind that has given up, but the kind that comes from having cared about something, really genuinely cared for a long time, without resolution, without the release of finally knowing. And I want you to hear this clearly, directly, that tiredness is not a sign that you were wrong to care. It's a sign that you're human, that you feel things deeply, that you haven't been able to switch this off, not because you're weak, but because whatever this is, whoever this person is, it means something to you. And things that mean something are worth the weight of caring about them. Just while you wait, don't forget to come back to yourself. Don't let the waiting hollow you out. Don't let the anticipation become the only thing you're living for. Because the conversation is coming, but you, the full, complete, already enough version of you, needs to be there to meet it. That's your reading for tonight. Thank you, genuinely, for being here. If something in this cracked something open, drop it in the comments. I want to hear it. Like, subscribe. You know what it means to this channel. And take care of yourselves tonight. All of you